Okay, let's unpack this. I have an equation for you to start things off today.
Okay.
I want you to stick with me because at first glance, this sounds like the setup for a conspiracy theory board.
I love a good conspiracy board.
You know, the kind with the red string connecting random newspaper clippings and blurry photos.
Red string usually means we're onto something interesting. So what do you have?
The equation is Torah plus tarot equals Tawrat.
Okay. That is a lot. You're mixing Hebrew scripture, French occult card games, and a specific Quranic term for the revelation given to Moses.
Right.
It sounds less like an equation and more like a provocation.
It does, doesn't it? But that is the specific mission of today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We've come through a stack of sources that proposes what I'm calling an extreme synthesis.
Okay.
The goal here is to take two things that are usually kept in completely different boxes, the mystical, the occult side.
So tarot and astrology.
Exactly. And then the orthodox religious side, so the Torah and Islamic theology, and weld them together.
And usually when people try to weld those things together, it's a mess. It ends up being this vague spirituality where, everything is everything.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. The welding torch in these sources isn't vibes.
It's not.
It's physics and discrete mathematics.
That is the part that caught my attention. We aren't looking at a hodgepodge here. The sources, which include everything from the Marseille tarot research of Stav Appel to the physics of Walter Russell, they're arguing for a search for a single symbolic grammar.
A single grammar for what?
For everything. The idea is that the human psyche, the movement of the stars, and the text of Scripture are all reading from the same script.
And the cast of characters in this source stack is wild.
Yeah.
We have Stav Appel, who claims the tarot is a Jewish crypto text.
Mm-hmm.
We have Stephen Berman writing on the Torah of the heavens. We have the esoteric philosophy of Manly P. Hall. And then, just to keep us on our toes, a heavy dose of Fibonacci mathematics and Islamic hermeneutics.
It's a rabbit hole, but it's a structured one. It feels like we're decoding something.
So let's start at the bottom of the rabbit hole. The foundation of this whole theory relies on something the sources call a double-encoded system. Before we get to the math or the stars, we have to talk about the cards.
Right. Because for most people, the tarot is a fortune-telling toy. You go to a fair, you pull a card, you see if you're going to meet a tall, dark stranger.
It's parlor magic.
It's parlor magic.
Mm-hmm.
But Stav Appel's research suggests something totally different. He views the tarot, specifically the classic Marseille deck from the 17th century, as a visual midrashic cipher.
Okay, now for listeners who might not be familiar with that term, can we unpack midrash?
Sure. Midrash is essentially the Jewish tradition of commentary and interpretation. It's the stories between the lines of the Torah. If the Bible gives you the headline, midrash gives you the backstory and the psychological profile.
So Appel's theory is that during periods when Jewish study was persecuted in Europe, the core narratives of the Torah were encoded into these playing cards.
Exactly. It's not fortune-telling. It's data preservation. It's a way to smuggle the Torah past the censors by disguising it as a game.
That makes sense.
If the Inquisition finds a Torah scroll, you're in trouble. If they find a deck of playing cards, they just think you're gambling.
The examples in the source material were pretty striking. Take the Fool card Lamet. In a standard reading, that's a jester or a beggar. But Appel says, look closer. He's a wanderer. He's walking off a cliff. He has a dog nipping at him. In this crypto-Jewish reading, that's not a fool.
That's Abraham.
That's Abraham.
It fits the narrative arc perfectly.
Yeah.
Abraham is the Ivri, the one who crosses over. He leaves his father's house to go to a land he doesn't know. It's a journey of radical faith or, foolishness in the eyes of the world.
And that pattern continues. Look at the hanged man.
The guy suspended by his foot.
Right.
In the occult world, that's often about suspended judgment or sacrifice. But if you apply this midrashic lens, it becomes a visual stand-in for the binding of Isaac. It's the son bound in a state of suspended animation between life and death.
And the Tower card, that striking image of a structure being blasted by lightning, becomes the fall of Babel, or potentially the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem.
It reframes the entire deck. It stops being a tool for predicting the future and becomes a tool for remembering the past.
So that's your first layer, the microcosmic layer. You have a handheld Torah hidden in a deck of cards, but then the source material zooms out.
Way out.
Way out. This is where we bring in Stephen Berman's work, The Torah of the Heavens.
This is the double encoding concept.
Which implies there are two copies of the file.
Essentially, yes. Berman argues that just as the cards are a visual Torah you can hold in your hand, The stars and constellations are a macrocosmic visual Torah projected onto the sky.
Okay.
The claim is that the same divine drama, the same stories of exile, covenant, and redemption, appears simultaneously in the cards and in the heavens.
It's like a surround sound system for Revelation. You read the book, you play the game, you look at the sky, and it's all the same movie.
The sources describe it as a triangulated exegesis. You have 3 layers. First, the textual Torah, the written narrative and law.
Okay.
Second, the cardic Torah, that imaginal theater of the tarot. And third, the celestial Torah, the liturgical commentary writing itself in the stars.
Okay, but here is where I have to play the skeptic, or at least the theologian. We're talking about tarot and astrology here.
Right.
In strictly monotheistic traditions, like Judaism and Islam, isn't this stuff usually strictly forbidden? I mean, isn't this the definition of occult or idolatry?
That is the elephant in the room. And honestly, if the sources ignored this, I would have dismissed the whole stack. But they don't.
They lean into it.
They lean right into it. They actually use Islamic theology to solve the problem of why these occult tools might be valid.
They use the poison to cure the patient.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
They introduce a hermeneutic razor, a tool for cutting between truth and falsehood, using 2 Quranic concepts, Muhaymin and Furqan.
Let's break this down. I've heard Furqan translated as the criterion.
Yes, Furqan is the capacity to distinguish. It's the filter. In this context, the Furqan distinguishes between occult noise, the fortune-telling, the sorcery, the ego-driven magic, and the preserved truth.
So it's the razor.
It's the razor that lets you look at a tarot card and say, I'm not doing magic here. I'm reading a narrative that was hidden to keep it safe.
So it validates the content while rejecting the superstition. What about Muhaymin?
Muhaymin is beautiful. It means the guardian or the verifier. It refers to how a later revelation watches over and confirms the truth in previous ones.
Okay.
The argument here is that even if the text of the Torah was obscured by persecution or history, the meaning was guarded, Muhaymin, by being encoded into the images of the tarot. The tarot becomes a witness to the Torah.
That creates a fascinating shift in perspective. It's not about hiding from God. It's about recognizing that God hid the truth in the images to save it.
Precisely. And the sources lean heavily on the Quranic theme that God knows what you conceal and what you reveal. There's this idea that reading a tarot card isn't hiding anything from the divine, since God knows the secrets of the breasts, the innermost heart. The card becomes a transparent mirror.
So it comes down to intent.
Everything in this framework hinges on intent. If your intent is malicious concealment, hiding the truth to manipulate others, that is condemned. But if your intent is preservation concealment,
Hiding the truth to protect it from destruction.
that changes the moral calculus completely.
So we've connected the Torah to the tarot, and we've justified it with Islamic theology. But we promise the listeners physics. And this is where the deep dive gets a little sci-fi. We have to talk about the esoteric bridge.
Right, because so far we're just talking about symbols. Now we have to talk about energy. This is where we bring in 2 very different thinkers, Manly P. Hall and Walter Russell.
Manly P. Hall is a legendary figure in esoteric philosophy. He brings the concept of the one teaching.
Hall views the tarot as a sacred book and the constellations as celestial hieroglyphs. He provides the architectural grammar. He says that the journey of the soul, which you see in the tarot, is linked to the outer cosmic journey you see in the stars.
But Hall is still a philosopher. Walter Russell, he's something else.
Walter Russell is the mechanic. He was a polymath who proposed a universal one, physics. His central idea is that the universe isn't just random matter bumping into each other.
Okay.
He describes it as an electric, oscillating field of mind pulsations.
Mind pulsations. That sounds abstract. How does that translate to physical reality?
He argues that everything moves in octaves. Matter and energy move in rhythmic expansions and contractions. Think of it like breathing.
Inhale, exhale.
You have centripetal force winding things up, inhaling, compressing, and centrifugal force unwinding them, exhaling, expanding. It's a rhythmic breathing universe.
And the sources claim these 2 fit together, the mystic Hall and the electric physicist Russell.
It's the Hall-Russell fusion. The idea is that Hall's symbols, those tarot images, are actually holographic glyphs of Russell's field dynamics.
Okay, I need an example. How does a card become a physics field?
Let's go back to the Tower card.
Okay.
In the tarot, it's a disaster, a fall, a crash. But in Russell's physics, that image represents a centripetal to centrifugal crash,
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning the energy's been wound up too tight. The compression becomes unstable. The tower isn't a punishment. It's a structural glitch in the energy field where the system has to release pressure. It requires a reset.
Wow.
The image on the card is a symbol of a literal physical event in the electric field of reality.
That is wild. So the symbols aren't just metaphors, they are diagrams of energy states.
Exactly. And if you accept that these are diagrams of states, you have to ask the next logical question. Is there a way to map these states?
Yeah.
To calculate them?
And that brings us to the hardcore section of the sources, the mathematical engine. This is where I want to warn the listeners. We are moving from philosophy to discrete computation.
The claim here is that reality isn't a fuzzy continuum where things sort of flow into each other. It's a specific calculable lattice.
And the math they use to prove this is unexpected. It involves Fibonacci numbers.
But not just standard Fibonacci. It's something called Pisano 60.
Okay.
So everyone knows Fibonacci numbers. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. Spiraling out forever. But Pisano periods happen when you take those numbers and divide them by a specific number, keeping only the remainder.
Remainder, okay.
When you do this modulus 60, meaning you divide by 60 and keep the remainder, you don't get an infinite spiral. You get a loop, a perfect repeating cycle of 60 numbers. The sources call this a discrete thriller machine.
I love that name, thriller machine. It sounds like a bad 80s movie, but here it implies suspense and structure.
It implies a clockwork universe. The idea is that reality works on this 60-state clock, and they use a unity-first indexing method, which is just a specific way of counting these numbers to align with the theology.
Let's make this concrete. The sources walk through a case study of a single card to show how this all stacks up. The star. Card number 17.
The star.
How does the star look when you run it through this massive Torah plus tarot plus physics plus math machine?
It's a convergence of every layer we've discussed. Let's peel it back.
Okay.
Layer 1, the Torah. The star represents Jacob's ladder or the living water in the desert. It's about divine guidance in a desolate place.
Right.
Layer 2, Hall. It's the symbol of initiatic hope, the light that guides the seeker.
Oh.
Layer 3, Russell's physics. In terms of electric fields, the star represents a point of field reharmonization. It's where the energy balances out after the crash of the tower.
And the math layer.
This is the kicker. The star is identified as a specific state. State sees dollars in a base 60 Fibonacci automaton.
Whoa, hold on. Automaton. That sounds like a robot.
In computer science, an automaton is just a machine that processes inputs and gives outputs based on rules. Specifically, a Mealy automaton. It's deterministic.
And the implication of that is what?
It's staggering. Spiritual states like hope, exile, or return aren't just feelings we drift into. They are mathematical nodes in a 60-state cycle.
That actually makes it sound like we are living in a simulation.
Or a divine decree. The sources call it the divine algorithm, and they connect it back to the Quranic frame. If this is a deterministic machine, it operates under the gaze of the divine who knows every state transition before it happens.
So we've gone from tarot is secret Torah to the universe is a 60-state Fibonacci computer.
And that connects directly to the conclusion of this deep dive, the synthesis.
It really is a super stack. We've traveled from the Quran to the Torah through 18th century tarot into electric universe physics and landed on a Fibonacci-proof engine.
And the key takeaway is that the equation we started with, Torah plus tarot, Tawrat, isn't just a clever pun. It's a claim that reality itself is a 60-state Torah array.
So the scripture isn't just a book you read on the Sabbath.
It's the source code of the lattice we are living in.
But before we fade away into pure abstraction, there was one more piece of the puzzle in the sources, a linguistic nugget that grounds this whole cosmic machine back down to Earth.
Silmesco.
Silmescor.
Yes. This is fascinating and so important for balance. It's a term from the Lushoot seed language, indigenous to the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
It refers to a kind of calm, whole flow when the sky, the water, and the person are at peace.
Why is that in a stack about math and Torah?
The sources present this as a local soil tongue echo of this same universal flow. It's a reminder that this divine algorithm isn't just out there in the galaxy or hidden in a dusty library. It's in the land.
It's in the soil.
It's the soil tongue version of the Fibonacci perfection.
It brings the mind pulsation down to the heartbeat.
Exactly. And speaking of heartbeats, the sources tie this math, this recurrence relation, where the next number depends on the previous ones, to the spiritual concept of Dikr.
Kikr, meaning the remembrance of God.
Right. Look at the formula. Cheek plus 1 varficin. I know math on a podcast is tough, but think about what that says. The next state is built from the current state and the previous state.
So the future depends on remembering the past.
It depends on carrying the past. The sources argue that this math is the engine of remembrance. You are constantly building the next moment of awareness based on maintaining the connection to the previous ones.
So the math describes the act of keeping God in mind.
That's the argument.
That is beautiful. It turns the Fibonacci sequence into a prayer.
It does. It suggests that the Mealy Dicker automaton isn't a cold machine. It's a living, breathing process of memory.
Well, this has been a journey. We started with the conspiracy theory equation and ended up inside a divine Fibonacci clock that runs on prayer.
It definitely forces you to look at a deck of cards, or the night sky, or even just a calculator a little differently.
Here's a provocative thought to leave you with. If our spiritual states, our hope, our despair, our clarity, are actually calculable nodes in a divine algorithm, what state are you in right now? Are you in the tower, crashing down? Are you in the star, finding hope? Or are you just waiting for the cycle to reset?
That is the question. And honestly, after this deep dive, I think I need to go debug my own heart.
Same here. I feel like I need to check my own code.
Always good to run a diagnostic.
You've been listening to The Deep Dive. Thanks for plunging in with us.